This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Larry Bailey. We're coming to you live from ICE X25. We've got a great show for you to go through. We got 4 big guests coming on. We've got Housing Wire here, Mortgage Champions, Sharky Bright, and Adopt the Brand. We're going to have a lot of guests here. I want you to stay tuned. We've got just 15-minute segments with each guest so we can make sure that we get in and out. We're going to ask some really important questions, things that only they can tell us from their perspective. And let's get going. Hey everyone, Larry Bailey here. We're back with Dale Vermillion with Mortgage Champions. We're going to continue our conversation here at the ICE X25 conference. Dale, you ready?
Ready to go.
All right.
Honored to be here. Thanks for asking me, Larry.
I can't believe we got you here to sit in this chair and talk with me. This was a total gift, so I appreciate your time.
Well, the feeling's mutual. I'm honored to be here with you.
Thanks
for asking me.
So, I know you from, I think I saw you speak at ICE 85,000 years ago. I just remember you standing up there being like, that guy's pretty damn cool. You've seen a lot change, right? And so just out of the gate, just to introduce you to everybody who's listening, in case they don't know who you are, how would you introduce yourself and how would you say you're making a difference for what is happening?
So this is my 42nd year in the mortgage industry. I started back in 1983 as a loan officer and worked all the way up for 12 years to running a national mortgage company. So my background, and I think it's important to always say that, is actually the industry. So I'm not just a paid gun that comes out. This is our 30-year anniversary, actually, of Mortgage Champion. So in 1995, yeah, it's pretty exciting.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's wild.
How quick was that?
It went like that. I mean, it's amazing. But in the last 30 years, we've worked with 700 plus lenders around the nation that we've coached and trained. I've trained 1.5 million loan officers over that period of time.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, and a lot of speaking engagements. We're 6,000 speaking engagements today.
Well, your voice sounds well.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. For an old guy, I'm doing all right. Here's the deal. What we teach and where we're making the difference is not from Dale Vermillion. It's from the people Dale Vermillion's been around with. My strength comes from the fact that I have spent 42 years around nothing but loan officers and leaders in this industry. And we just take all of the best practices that we see. I mean, I'm training people right now that are doing $100 million a year in production. $80 million, $75 million in this 2024, 2025 market without any problem whatsoever.
People would think you're making that up. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I mean, I just had a guy on my podcast last year that averages over 75 loans a month in retail, distributed retail. He's a 26-year-old kid. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is when you really sit down and talk with these people, it's not rocket science. The thing that is most changed in the industry that I have seen, 2 things that have changed in the last 3 to 5 years. Number one is mindset. People are since the rates went up, they're freaked out about it. They're letting that impede.
They're stopping themselves.
They're stopping themselves. They think people don't want to buy. Well, people are always going to buy homes. I mean,
everybody always needs money.
Always needs
money.
It's never going out of style. Every suit in my closet matches with green, and yours too.
So I gotta believe, just because as you say that, I remember arguing with other loan officers I was working with in '93 when rates went from, I don't know, I think it was 7.5 to 6.5, and then they went back to 9.5.
Yep.
I was like, nope, we're done.
Yep.
It's over. No,
never over.
No, it's never.
I mean, I've seen 4 decades of it. So it's really changing your mindset to understand that at the end of the day, the borrowers are not paying a rate, they're paying a payment. It's all about affordability. It's all about saving people money. It's all about building wealth for people. If you can do that, no matter what the rates are, you're going to win. So that's number one. Number two is it's really a relationship play. Yeah. And that's the difference from a 2020, 2021 market when it was a straight order take. It was raining money. You didn't have to build relationships. You could take 7-minute applications and make a ton of money. And we got used to that. And a lot of people have not changed from that.
A lot of people came into that too.
They came in at that time. They thought this is what the mortgage industry is, which all of us know that's not what the mortgage industry is. That was an anomaly. So today you got to be high tech, high touch. You know, you look at the ICE suite of products that they have that really sets their customers up to succeed, but it only works if the loan advisor is a loan advisor and builds deep relationship both with their partners and with their customers to build that trust so that when you educate and when you coach your customers on what you can do for them, they believe you.
That's what I'm going to ask you. Like, so when you go through and you're training these folks, now I still carry my MLO license, just renewed it. It was late, but I still got it renewed. And I go through and I said, if I was going to be a loan officer today, what would I choose? Like, I get this question. I'm like, well, it's Encompass. And it's not because of the technology, but it's what it allows me to do in my flow.
Yeah.
So is that still the thing? Like, is anything really changed as far as,
No,
right?
that would be my recommendation. You look at the ICE customer acquisition package that they've created now, where they've got end-to-end solution for consumers and for the lenders. It's a great solution for people to follow through. Now what you have to do is you have to combine that with the personal touch, with the personal advice, with, you know, nurturing your customers through that. And here's the deal. You got to pick up the phone and call people. That's number one.
Wait, that's one of my questions. You can't answer that question. Can't answer that question ahead of time.
Okay.
It's one of my questions.
I'll go deeper on it for you.
Yeah, you will. All right. So on this topic, because you brought up ICE, right? And so we're at an ICE conference, so naturally it's easy to reference that. There's plenty of other technologies out there.
Yep.
Plenty of them. You could shake a stick and hit 50. And so for me, it's not always the technology. It's about making sure that we know what we're doing. So when you look at the folks you're talking to,
Yep.
whether it's somebody brand new,
yep,
I'm sure you've got folks that you teach that are up and comers, right?
Every day.
Every day. Okay, cool. And then you've got this $100 million person, and obviously, you know, closing 75 loans a month means that they're taking 150 to 200 applications, I'm imagining, and there's a cycle, and they've got some support services somehow.
Yep. Got some LOAs helping them.
Some LOAs helping them. So what do you see in your view? Do you see, like, if you put workflow and technology on the table, which block comes first? Is it always that way? Like, what's your vibe on that?
So what we coach and teach, because, you know, I work in the enterprise world. So we work with lenders. I don't train independent loan officers. I train lenders, and then I train their loan officers and their leaders and their ops teams within that what we do with them. We always start with the workflow. We don't let the technology necessarily dictate that. We start with the workflow that is going to create the optimum process, because look, the mortgage industry is nothing more than an assembly line. That's really all it is. And in any assembly line, you've got specialists, and if you do your job wrong, it stops the assembly line. You can't make that mistake. So we look at the human workflow first, and we define, because I've been able to do this being with 700 lenders over the years I've done this. Here's the optimum workflow. Now let's look at your technologies, and let's see how we utilize them to the greatest extent within that. And, you know, you talk about some of the other technologies out there. Look, I love tried and true. That's just what I like.
Right.
Okay. That's why I love ICE.
Right.
It's reliable. You know, it's good. Some of the technologies that are out there, they have the shiny nickel effect.
Mm-hmm.
But frankly, a lot of people don't use those things anyway.
Right.
Like, you need to identify, what do I need that is essential for success? And what are the things that are nice to have? And maybe I'll get to them, but they're not the things that are frontier. That's a really important thing for them to do.
Frontier. What does that mean?
Frontier. I'll put that 2 words.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not
It's
top
not the top.
of shelf.
It's not the top shelf.
Right.
It's there. Yeah. So it's you know, I always call them. You call them shiny nickels. I call them shiny objects. Same thing. Where I say to people, that's great. Where does that fit into your day?
Yeah.
How are you going to leverage that?
Yeah.
And if that thing is going to actually turn the corner for you on something, phenomenal. Let's build it into the workflow so it can do the thing that you think it's going to do. Otherwise, why?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And we got to remember that the most important thing to remember about technology is why it's there in the first place. Okay. It's not there to create your relationships. That's the most common mistake that I see.
How do you see them making the mistake? Like, what do you mean?
They don't talk to their customers. Everything is done digitally and electronically, and there is no human connection, conversation that's happening. It's like, I want another technology that will do another thing that I don't have to do, and that doesn't work.
Is that a generation thing? Do you think that's a
No.
training thing?
No, that's more of a training thing. I mean, I'm seeing it with 60-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and 20-year-olds. It doesn't really matter. It's not generational at all. It's more just, how are you wired? And are you more of a right brain relational person that likes to have conversation, and that's your strength and that's your superpower? Or are you more of a left brain logical that you don't want to do that? Well, if that's the case, then sales may not be the best position for you.
Yeah. Like it was okay when you had to order take, and it was okay when you had to just kind of click the keys and not really
not the market
talk
today
to someone.
Right.
And historically speaking, again, we're old enough. You're older than me, thankfully. I'm catching up to you quick though. But we're about 10 years apart. And so, I look at the things that we do today are probably going to be around for the next 10 to 15 years in those habits. And it's not like I worry about it, but I can see a distinction between the organizations that promote communication versus, and when I say communication, I'm going to ask you to define what you think communication is. But I do see that even inside companies communicating between themselves on that assembly line. I think the famous example from Japanese auto line for the just-in-time is anybody can pull the stop chain.
Yep.
Right? If they see a defect, they can pull the stop chain, fix it, and that way we don't have to worry about it. So, when you go through and you see folks going back to communication, at what point do you find that there's a tool or a sense to be like, you know what, I'm not communicating correctly, and I need to make a change? Do you go through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. If you're working in the backside of the business and operations, and you look at an email thread that has 17 threads on it over 3 days, and we still haven't solved the problem.
I mean, one more email should do it.
Yeah, I mean, something's got to click to say, we got to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, or I got to walk over to the desk of the person that I'm trying to get this resolved with. Sometimes we think we shoot an email, my job is done. Your job is not done shooting an email. Your job is done when the customer is taken care of. Technology's goal and role, as I see it, is efficiency, uniformity, ease. Those three things are huge, and that's why technology is so important and so powerful. You got to be high tech. But on the other side, communication from my vantage point is conversation. It's conversation. It's not a text followed by a Slack, followed by an email, and I've never talked to you, because we can work through things in conversation that you can't. And you know this as well as I do. You look at emails. You can have 10 people look at the same email, ask them to interpret it, and they'll all give you a different interpretation.
And ask for the tone.
That's exactly right.
Ask for the tone. I get a response back or a text. And so when you go through, like, how do you find out, Mortgage Champions, how do you actually go through and work towards that topic? Because it's got to be in every single company. Like every single company I go to work in and I go to work for, we're trying to fix things. And I'm like, all right, let's go through your workflow. Where's your workflow diagram? And they're like, yeah, we don't have that. I'm like, all right, so we'll build it out. And we interview and we talk to people and we find out, well, why are you even doing that? They don't even know. And they're like, well, what should I be doing? So I got to imagine you come across that every day.
Every day.
Yeah. So what do you do about it?
So the first thing we do once we've established the workflow is we make sure they understand it. And if they do understand it, then the next question I ask them, and this is always the telltale question, as I look the person dead in the eye and go, how do you start your day? And it's almost always the same answer. I check my email and I look at them and go, there's your problem right there. You're starting the day reactive instead of proactive. You're starting the day by checking your email. And here's what I know. There ain't nothing good in there. Right? There's where all your problems are going to lie. So what's going to happen is you're going to go in, you're going to find your biggest problem and say, I'm going to solve my biggest problem first. Well, if you're in sales, that's going to kill your sales day, because it's going to kill all your momentum, all your motivation, all your enthusiasm. I always say, sell early, sell often. Start your day with sales, not with emails. Sell a deal by 11 o'clock, then go check your emails, and you've already covered yourself. If you're in operations, you check at the end of the previous day. You've gone through all your emails, set your priorities for the next day. Start there. Start with your priorities instead of starting with, that's proactive, instead of starting with a reactive method that gets you off on rabbit trails that you look at your watch, it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And nothing's gotten done.
You know, it's interesting. So one of the pieces that with Encompass Web that rolled out is this task pipeline. Have you seen that?
I'm not.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I'm somewhat familiar with it.
yeah, you probably heard it. So it's one of those features where similar to you. So I've done time studies for clients where they're like, why is my team so slow or to respond or so, they feel overworked even though a processor only has 20 loans, right?
Right.
Kinds of things. And so I've gone through and show them that they spend 65 to 70% of their day in their Outlook. Like just using standard keyboard software tracking, just not invasive, but just, hey guys, do you even realize you're doing this? And the reason for that is because they don't know what they're supposed to do next.
Right.
And so with Encompass Web, you can actually use this task, what's called task pipeline. They're workflow tasks, very technical, but the reality is it sets up your day so that when you walk in, you know exactly what you're supposed to do
Good.
in your prioritization for the, right? And so we're speaking the same language.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to take that to say, to again, focus in on your email box is your problems. Let's focus on the solutions. Let's focus on the tasks that you need to get done today. Mind if I borrow that?
I don't mind at all. And here's the deal. Time block your day out. Set your priorities and time block them. That's absolutely critically important. And then here's the most important rule on the operations side. Work towards completion. Like this is a simple thing to fix operational issues. We walk in all the time at companies and go, quit leaving things half-baked, open. If it hasn't been solved, work till you solve it.
You know what's funny is,
and they're always come back and go, wow,
that's so
worked great."
amazing. Meanwhile, we close loans. What's every underwriter need to do? Clear every condition. Like,
That's right.
Why are you closing a loan with open conditions? Like that would be job insecurity.
It's exactly
So,
right.
finish your task, which brings me back to the task flow. So you're actually in Mortgage Champions, you're actually training folks to work off a task-based workflow, basically.
Yeah. So what we do is we start at the top with the executive team. We understand their business. We dig in. We look at everything they do, and then we give prompts and education and coaching and consulting on how do you improve that workflow. Then we now go to their leaders. We roll out with the leaders. When that's done, then we go to the sales force. We train the salespeople on a better sales process that's going to get the maximum. Because here's the other thing, and this is really important. I've said this my whole career, and I'm a sales guy. So I came from the sales side. So sales managers, loan officers, all that stuff in my early career. But 90% of operational issues are actually sales problems. They're not operational issues.
Borrower set up.
It's that we didn't take a complete application. We didn't build a true commitment. We didn't do the things we needed to do. So we fix that first.
Okay.
Then we go to the ops team and go, okay, now you should be getting a little better quality of application. Now let's fix the operational problem.
And that's got to make the ops team feel good.
They love it.
Right. Of course they love it.
They love it when I say those guys are 90% of the problem.
Of course it was a sales team. Like that's what everybody wants to fight about. Like that's not a secret.
I have great friendships with all my operations partners. There's no question about that. And even the sales guys, they're mad, but they're like,
yeah, you're right. Thanks for letting me close the extra $10 million this month. Yeah, Dale, that sucked, but thank you. Cool. So ICE experience, biggest takeaway for you besides speaking twice in a day, and getting your message out. Big takeaways for you? You've been to so many of these.
Yeah.
How does this one stand out for you?
Great conference always. But this one, the thing I love the most about it is their introduction yesterday of how they've now taken all of the Black Knight and the ICE and all of these products, and they brought them together into a process flow that really is powerful. To me, that is the most exciting message of the conference when it comes to tech.
It's not interoperability? Not that message?
No, it's not that message.
That's a drinking game. So you sounds like you don't. So
I'm not even sure I understand what that word is.
Interoperability is a word that's been in every breakout session. It just means you can use the same technology between desktop and web interfaces.
Yeah, they got to talk to each other. I mean, that's the key.
It's communication.
That's exactly right.
Any questions for me?
No, I mean, look, it's really fun to be here with you. I appreciate you inviting me in.
It worked out. It worked out great. I appreciate you coming. And I was telling the crew setting this up. There's a whole bunch of crew back here you guys can't see on the podcast, but I thought this was going to be like a box, like just like a room, like in the glass. Remember when they set the glass door rooms up, and I thought it was going to be that, and I'd have my own stuff on here, just kind of hamstringing it together. But this is fancy. So
Yeah.
thanks for being my guest.
Hey man, you're a mover and a shaker. They want to make sure you look good, and you look great, my friend.
It's a lot of makeup.
Nice job.
Listen, Dale, I appreciate you coming in. Always a pleasure. Hope you have a great rest of your conference.
It's great to be with you. God bless you. Appreciate you, and thanks for having me.
Likewise. We'll catch you later.
All right.
Thanks, guys.